So before we start our meeting tonight, I would like to acknowledge that I am this evening calling from, I'm going to probably say this wrong, Salatkumaks in Coldwater, from the back of my van in a very beautiful field. And I'd like to start by also acknowledging the recent discoveries or uncovering, I guess, of what was known as the Cooper Island Residential School of the 160 unmarked graves. I've spent the last, I guess, week and a half or 2 weeks since that came out, talking to a number of people who went to that school and will try to relay a bit of what has been shared with me in terms of what people are asking for right now, or at least the people that I've spoken to. One is understanding. Another is time and space. Another is however people pray, or in whatever way people express those things, is to pray for the children who were discovered and for the people who are going through a really hard time right now. And again, whatever that looks like to each person. And the other thing is for people to be careful when they're choosing their words, talking about these things, especially online, in online formats. These aren't debates. And there is a lot of people that this is obviously brought up a lot for. And so people really are asking for that type of support. We need to stand by, to be gentle, and recognize that it is hard for people to see these things all over the place. In particular, some of the conversations happening about whether or not things are real or valid, or people trying to excuse what has happened. That's really hard for people to read and hear about. So I just wanted to share that because that's what was shared with me and what I was asked to share tonight. And there is an event that Penelakut has invited everyone to attend in the community on August 2nd. It starts at 9 a.m. In Chemainus. And that event is to walk with them. And so council and staff and everyone in the community is invited to attend and to walk together that day. So on that note, I'd like to acknowledge that we are coming from different places. We're in different rooms. We have different ways of expression. We have different emotional intensities and different roads that lead us to conclusions. May we combine clarity of mind with kindness of heart. And may we be impartial without bending to strong personalities. May we sacrifice self-interest for the good of the whole. And may we do our work with love and clarity of vision for the benefit of those that we represent. And on that, I'm going to just open my agenda and ask if there are any late items this evening.
Mayor Staples, there are no late items.
So then I'd ask for an approval of the July 19th, 2021 agenda. All those in favor? Motion carries. Adoption of the regular council minutes, that the minutes from June 2021 be adopted as circulated. A mover and a seconder. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. And we move along to Mr. DeVerti. Welcome back from your getaway.
Thank you, Mayor Staples. I'll try and be brief. The grant application for the Trans-Canada Highway pathway from the Silver Bridge to the north end of the Ramada was unfortunately unsuccessful. However, the project is still fully funded in the capital plan and able to move ahead later this year. The Macadam and Rotary Park plans were approved by council on June 21st, and the full plan can be still found on the city's website for those that want to look into the details of what that includes. As council's aware, and many of the public likely already, the city has been designated as the first bee city on Vancouver Island. And that's terrific news. And I know that a few events have already been going with the city's partners in that, which is great. Councilor Newington's been out at the farmers market as well, most recently. Wanted to point out that the city is experiencing an increased number of complaints regarding unauthorized burning in the Macadam Park. And with the extremely dry conditions, obviously that's quite concerning, and residents are encouraged to continue to report any fires or campfires that they may see.
Peter, you're hard to hear.
I'm sorry.
It's kind of waffling, and my hearing is no good anyway, as you know, but I'm just wondering if anybody else is having trouble.
Yeah, it seems to be going in and out a bit.
Okay, I can't fix it at the moment, but I'll speak up for now, and then I'll try to adjust my audio settings. I just switched laptops. So I wanted to take the opportunity to welcome Michael Dunn to the Bylaw Supervisor and Fire Inspector position, and he commences work on August 9th. He'll be joining us from his last few years in North Cowichan, which is terrific. Updated designs for the BC Housing White Road development have been submitted, and building permit application review is expected soon. I believe expected completion was late 2021, but that may be pushed into early 2022 now if they're not getting rolling until the fall with construction. Just a couple of other items. As council is aware, one application was submitted and received council consideration on June 21st for the cob oven expression of interest. More information was requested, and a follow-up report is on tonight's agenda for your consideration. Just a bit of information, tax penalty due date, approximately 75% of taxpayers paid their tax bill by the due date of July 2nd, and the remaining have until September 30th before any penalties will be applied. Homeowner grants are, as council is aware, now through the province, and so those can still be filed even now that it's late, particularly now that the penalty date is a bit later. So although the city can't accept them, they're still able to do so if they haven't yet on the provincial website. City Hall is now open to the public with no restrictions. Masks are still recommended as per provincial direction, but not mandatory. And the public washrooms are now open in City Hall. That's it for today.
Thank you. Councillor Newington?
Thank you, Peter. When you were giving the report on the fires at Mccann Park, you were kind of coming in and out, so I didn't catch everything that you said. Would you mind repeating it? Sorry.
Sure, thank you for that. The city's been experiencing an increased number of complaints regarding unauthorized burning in the park. And obviously with the extreme dry conditions, residents are encouraged to continue to report any fires or campfires or any smoldering of any kind within our parks or anywhere around town is particularly important. So that's all I wanted to draw your attention to.
Councillor Brooke?
Thank you, Mayor. Peter, the cob oven request for expressions of interest, our last meeting, this was put off to a committee of the whole meeting. I was surprised to find it on the curriculum for this evening.
Yeah, we felt rather than a special committee of the whole just for that, you could certainly have a separate one if you like, but given the information was now provided, it felt most appropriate to put it on tonight's agenda. You can certainly defer it to a future meeting if council wishes.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Bruce? Oh, you're on mute, Councillor Bruce.
Sorry. My goodness, that's the first mistake I've ever made on this program. Is there any chance that you can write out in simple terms, kind of a pyramid type? I'd like to know where all our employees are. I won't say I'm confused, but I'm kind of confused. And I'd like to see you at the top with a piece of paper with the various people in various positions below you. I'm sure that, would that be possible?
Oh, yeah. Certainly, Councilor Bruce, through you to the mayor, we update the organizational chart fairly regularly because we get questions whenever doing hiring processes about what the structure is. So we often update that. So I can easily circulate that this week.
Okay, thank you. I have one other question.
All right. So right,
May I do that, Mayor?
of course you may, Councillor Bruce.
With the expanded Sharps cleanup crew, I've had it reported to me that they do not clean out the boxes. You know, the boxes that are around at various locations. Is that correct? Or
Yeah, that's correct. They like, so each of us municipalities or otherwise have individual boxes. Some are in washrooms, for example. So there's a Sharps container within City Hall, even in the upstairs washroom. There's a more Skookum box outside the Canada Avenue washrooms that's the big metal yellow one. So there's those. They don't empty those ones. So their task, if you will, is to be out in the community and getting the loose ones.
And who empties the boxes?
Our staff would, and they collect those to a point, and then they take them to places like Margaret Moss, who accepts them in bulk.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. DeVerta at this time? I don't see anyone else. Thank you very much for your report. Can I get a motion to receive? All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Bylaw Department pickup truck purchase. Is this you, Ms. Hastings? I saw you. There you are up in the corner.
It is. Thank you, Mayor Staples. Tonight before you, we have a request for decision report for permission to prepare a bylaw amendment to the 2021 budget to add the purchase of a pickup to be used by the Bylaw Enforcement Department. The maximum cost would be $35,000 to be funded from a combination of equipment reserve, cannabis reserve, and the sale and or trade-in of the currently owned vehicles. So historically, the city has had one vehicle that was shared between bylaw, planning, and building departments. That vehicle currently is the 2019 Honda Clarity. There is also the Dodge Nitro that was a cast off from the fire department's fleet that came to the department in 2020. The purpose was to supplement the bylaw, building, and planning department needs. Due to its age, both maintenance and gas consumption to this vehicle is very inefficient. And in addition, its space restrictions make it less suitable vehicle for bylaws needs. Cleaning up of our green spaces has always been considered with a balanced approach, taking into consideration the amount of time to remediate the area, the location, and the size of items required to be removed. In addition, when a larger vehicle with a truck bed is needed, collaboration with Public Works Department is required for the use of one of their vehicles, which is often unavailable just due to the operational demands and time allocation of the department's current schedules. The current vehicles utilized by the bylaw department are unable to assist with the removal of large items and cannot transport hazardous materials inside the vehicles. Much larger items such as shopping carts have been impossible with the current fleet and resulted in the expense of hiring a contractor for removal. If there's any questions regarding the budget, I know the analysis is there regarding where all of the funding is coming from. I think the biggest takeaway from that part of the report is that we're not requiring additional funds. These funds were already in a reserve and from the cannabis funding and whatever we can offset by the sale of the Dodge Nitro. So if the mayor or council has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Are there any questions? Councillor Duncan?
Thank you, Mayor Staples, and thank you for the report. I definitely support purchasing this vehicle. And I know right now it's very hard to find any decent used vehicles because of the chip issue that's going on. So used vehicles, even if we found one, we'd probably be having to pay too much for one anyway. So I'm fully supportive of getting the vehicle that I know that your department will need.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. So I'll read out the motion. And a seconder for that motion. Hello? Uh-oh, you've all frozen on me.
We can't hear you. Can't hear. Can you hear her, Allison?
And we're back. Sorry, you guys all froze for some reason. So a mover and a seconder is where I was. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we will move on to the summary of building permits. The council received the summary of building permits, June 2021 report of the building inspector for information only. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Is there any discussion on this motion? One moment, if you can still hear me. I'm just going to reconnect. Can everyone hear me okay? I just switched devices to see if that worked better. Okay, are there any questions about the building permits? Seeing no hands, I'll call the questions. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to the community cob oven. I'm not sure who's speaking to this. Is it you, Miss Boyd, or is it, yes? Okay, so I'm gonna pass it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Staples. My apologies, I wasn't at the last meeting. Holidays prevailed, but I'm here now, and I did watch the video of the meeting, and I gathered 3 items that council wished to know a bit more information on. The utilization, cost breakdown, and other organizations that could manage the cob oven. So I hope I've summarized here for a bit. At the time of issuing the request for expressions of interest, staff placed an ad in the newspaper. We posted it on our website. We put it on social media. I reached out to a number of organizations that I thought would qualify. Hang on, somebody wants in. And I also emailed the Downtown Duncan Business Improvement Association to see if they could share the RFEOI with their membership, with possibly an eatery looking at that expression of interest. Unfortunately, only one group did get back to me, and it was the Couch and Green community. And they put in their expression of interest to manage it. So thank you, Judy. So we didn't receive any others, so I'm not sure why there wasn't, but I can't answer that more. The utilization of the cob oven in the past couple of years, I reached out to Joy that managed it back a few years ago, and updated from 2017 to 2018, actually, it was used 23 times by groups. And in 2018 to 2019, it was used 15 times. So when we look at a full calendar year at 52 weeks, and then we look at, say, 4 months of the year for 16 weeks, it probably was used almost every weekend in the summer. Unfortunately, during, of course, COVID times, it wasn't rented out. And then during 2018 and 19, there was a month in there that we had a fire ban, and the cob oven will not operate during a fire ban. So it would not operate right now. And the previous years that I am aware of were not available. So the breakdown somewhat to the finances is we spoke with we heard from the designer and the builder, and the estimate to update it and one of the cob ovens itself is approximately $2,000. Our new operations manager, Natalie Vayu, has researched a few ways to secure it. And one was the roll-up gate design, almost like your garage door opener, and or the side roll gate type. And she estimated that to be approximately $11,000 or less. And then as noticed in the previous reports, the 5,000 co-op grant that was given to or issued to the House of Friendship is available for the city. And when we look at things broken down, it's approximately $8,000 to fix it and secure it. From there, we would recommend that the Cowichan Green community take over the management of the cob oven, create programs, and as Judy's here too, what she would ideally do with the cob oven, and we'd sign an agreement with them. Looking forward and understanding council, I thought I'd look into a little bit about taking the cob oven down and returning it to the grass and underground sprinkler system that's around there. And Natalie provided those figures on the page 3 of the report. And it's approximately around $9,000 as well. So I leave it up to council if anyone has any questions. And Judy's here as well to answer. And I think Judy might have a bit more information, but I'm not sure at this point. I did talk to her earlier today. So
Ms. Stafford, Ms. Stafford, thank you, Ms. Boyd. Ms. Stafford, did you want to add anything before we go to questions?
No, but they got the, I got the usage for 219, which was not available. And there was 20 uses at that point. Some of the biggest expenses, I guess, is the insurance. So I didn't go to my insurance company, pending today, but you know, we would roll the insurance into our insurance. And I just think that overall, we just have more capacity than the House of Friendship or Cowichan Community Kitchens has. So I could see that we could set up a better structure, booking it online, doing more promotion. So I think it would get, I can anticipate quite an increase in usages if it got the right promotion.
Thank you. Okay, are there any questions from council at this time? I think I saw Councillor Duncan's hand go up, and then I've got a list. So go ahead, Councillor Duncan.
Okay, thank you. I think I'm on. Can you hear me? Yes. Thank you. You know, based on the numbers that I see here, I just want to know what would the city have an ongoing financial cost, or will the 8,000 that we would be putting in to secure it and get it up to snuff be sort of the end of the story for us, and then the green community would take it over?
I'm not sure who would answer that. Is it Mr. DeVerti or Ms. Boyd or Ms. Stafford, or a combination of the three of you? Okay, Ms. Boyd, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
My understanding on city's part, it would be to get it up to snuff and secure it. And then Ms. Stafford would manage it and maintain and run the show from there. So as I understand, the cob oven would be self-sustaining in itself after us. Yes.
Thank you.
When I look back at some of the expenses that were incurred, a lot of it was vandalism and graffiti. So I think with the additional security that's being planned, those costs would be minimal.
All right, Ms. Newington, or Councillor Newington, sorry.
That's quite all right. My question was actually the question that Tom asked. What would be the ongoing cost to the city? And, you know, once the cob oven is up and running, as long as it's self-sustaining, then that would be wonderful.
Thank you. Councillor Bruce, you're next.
Okay, thank you. Did we cover how many times it was used between 2019 and 2020? Was that covered in there?
I see some head nodding. So Ms.
Yep.
Stafford, did you want to take that one on?
That wasn't in Allison's report because we didn't get that information, but I just got the email today that they found that and it was 20.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
And
you. Oh, go ahead, Councillor Bruce.
I see at the bottom of the page here, it says that we could apply for a Canada Community Revitalization Fund. I'm not really interested in the cob oven, but I would be interested if we could get the funding to fix the oven. And if we were successful in obtaining this grant, that would certainly sway my mind. I'm not interested in spending anything on it, to tell you the honest truth, as you all know. And so then would we lease the cob oven to the green community, and then they would keep all the proceeds and there'd be no cost to the city? Is that what's happening?
Ms. Boyd, I believe that's you that answers that question.
It would be a service or management agreement. It's not necessarily a lease. And therefore, yes, it would be no costs in the future to the city. Cowichan Green Community would manage the entirety. And as for the Canada grant, I am looking into it still. Deadline for application is this Friday, and Peter and I have reviewed it quite a bit. It's a lot of information to get out, but we can definitely give it a try.
Thank you.
When would we know if we got that grant?
That was the one I was looking for. That's the question.
Yeah. Okay.
Councillor Capps.
Thank you, Mayor Staples. And thank you, Judy, for coming back to answer our questions again. And I just wanted to voice my support for this. I think that the initial startup cost to get this back into a place where it can be operational again is pretty minimal when you look at the value that this has for the community. And in the letters that we've received and things that I've heard myself since this discussion has started, I really see the value in this. And I think the green community, it would be ideal to operate it. And of course, I hope we get the Community Revitalization Fund. That would be awesome. And with the funds that are available from the House of Friendship, I think it's a really reasonable cost to get this up and running again. Thank you. That's all. Just very supportive.
Thank you. And I see no further hands up, so I'll read out the motion that council approve up to 13.
One more here.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Bruce.
Sorry, thank you, Mayor. The other thing I was going to comment on was the $9,000 to take the thing out of there. And I guess that's great, but I find that extremely high. And I work for a company that's quite capable of pulling that thing out of there. And I wouldn't like us to do any kind of a judgment on the cost between keeping it and the cost between taking it out, thinking that it's going to cost us more to take it out than keep it. And I just feel that that would be, that's a very, very high number, $9,100 to take that thing out. So, and I know we could do it for less. If you want us to do it, we can come do it. But anyway, I would just like to not compare those two numbers until we had a definitive quote as to taking it out. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Duncan, I think I saw your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Even if the cost is a little less, the fact that it's only going to cost the city around $8,000 to secure and keep the cob oven is worth the money. We basically got a lot of the money for that from grants to start with as part of the Centennial project. So, you know, I don't want to see it torn down, and I don't want to see it left to end up in more disrepair. So we're going to have to spend money on it, whether we like it or not, one way or the other, because otherwise it's just going to be an eyesore and an attractant to more and more vandalism. So if we're going to have to spend money, I would much rather spend $8,000 and keep the oven and have the Couch and Green community then manage it for as long as they want. After they can have it for 5 years and more if they want.
Thank you. So I'm going to read out the motion that council approve up to $13,000 for the repair and security costs for the cob oven as outlined in the July 19th, 2021 report of Corporate Services Coordinator, and that council directs staff to draft an amendment to the 2021 budget of $13,000 for the cob oven for repair and security costs, and the council directs staff to secure the $5,000 co-op grant from the House of Friendship to provide for repair and security measures to reduce the net cost of the cob oven, and the council directs staff to enter into an agreement with the Couch and Green Community Society for the operation and maintenance of the cob oven for 5 years with an option for renewal, and that council directs staff to apply for the Canada Community Revitalization Fund for the community cob oven repair and security enhancements. Do I have a mover and a seconder for this motion? Is there any further discussion? Seeing no hands, I'll call, oh, Councillor Bruce, go ahead.
Sorry, I just, so if we don't get the $5,000 co-op from the House of Friendship and we don't get the Canada Community Revitalization Fund, do we still go ahead?
I believe that the money from the House of Friendship has already been approved and established, so that 5,000 has already been approved, and I'll ask, I guess, Ms. Boyd for the answer to the second question.
So yes, Mayor Staples, you're correct. The 5,000 from the co-op has been written, but we'd just like to secure it with a formal letter, as well as we can try for the Canada grant, and if we get it, that's a bonus, thankfully. However, we would go forward on the $8,000 only.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions, Councillor Bruce?
And sorry, and one more thing, so that there is no, this is a question, there's no ongoing cost to the city of Duncan, to the Couch and Green community as it goes forward, is that correct?
Yes, ongoing costs, $0 intended to be self-sustaining. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I will call the question now. All those in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Bruce opposed. Thank you. I'm going to move on to 6.4 purchasing policy update, and thank you, Ms. Stafford, if you're still here. There you are, for coming in this evening and for your work on this.
Thanks, everyone.
Purchasing policy update. The council approved the amendments to the purchasing policy as attached to the July 19th, 21 report by the Director of Finance. And Ms. Crossman, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Staples. So, as you know, we recently became members of the BC Social Procurement Initiative, and they identified a shortfall in our purchasing policy that we needed to amend. So I have changed the wording that defines what we will disclose when we're doing an RFP. And we need to disclose the weighting in certain instances when it's required by the trade agreements. So I've made that change in our purchasing policy. And at the same time, we noted, especially when we just recently did the janitorial contract, that when we were looking at the thresholds of when we need to take things to council for approval, it wasn't clear whether we needed to consider the entire value of, say, a 5-year contract or just the annual value. So we wanted to make it clear so that we didn't have these questions in the future, that we should consider the entire value of a contract. So if it's $50,000 per year and it's a 5-year contract, then we need to consider the $250,000 threshold rather than just the annual threshold. And that makes a difference in our processes, whether we bring it to a council meeting for approval or whether we don't have to. So those are the only two changes that have been written into the purchasing policy here in front of you for approval tonight.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council? I see no hands going up. Oh, Councillor Bruce, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. And does the AVICC and the UBCM, do they offer help in this department when we're purchasing? It seems to me at our meeting we went to, I've only been to one of each of those, but anyways, it seemed to me that they certainly have financial help. And I was just wondering if they had the ability to help in our purchases. Just wondering.
Go ahead, Ms. Crossman.
I'm not sure I understand the question. What do you mean by help in writing our policies, or?
No, and procuring. This policy is to look after, is it not, us procuring various things we need for construction projects and all kinds of supplies to the city. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, this policy defines how we go about purchasing our items, what items we need to write a PO for, who can approve what level of purchasing, when staff can approve it, when council has to approve it, how we do the RFP process, and those types of things.
Okay, then maybe I'll withdraw this. I was just wondering if the AVICC do they have any input for us procuring, say, pipe or any other solid stuff that you have to have a big quantity of. Anyways, I'm muddy in the waters. Go ahead.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. DeVerti, go ahead. We can't hear you. Still can't hear you. You're going to let that go? Okay. You can follow up with an email if there's anything you wanted to add, I guess, to council, and hopefully get your audio sorted out. Okay, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? I'm assuming Councillor Duncan, that was in favor. And I will move on to 6.5. So 6.5 is confirming the official street names for 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th streets, that council confirm 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th street as the official street names. And I believe this was just the difference of them being letters or numerical. And this is just a housekeeping. Is that correct? I see nodding from staff. Okay. Are there any questions?
Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Yes.
All right. I might still have to speak up. I had to go back up to my other mic.
We're just on the next. We're just on the next.
The street. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me just add the piece on the other one. UBCM in a couple of situations has got involved in group purchasing. So you may know that the benefits plan that the city does is through a UBCM benefits plan. So there's sort of a group purchase from that perspective. And the only other two that are sort of province-wide group purchasing are the MFA, Municipal Finance Authority. So our ability to borrow and whatnot is through that larger organization that I believe was originally struck through some UBCM initiatives. And as well, the Municipal Insurance Association is also something that came through the UBCM at some point. But as for individual purchases of pipe, as was suggested, no, not down to that granular level. But if there's something that a large number, for example, another one more recently in the last 10 years is property insurance. So that's something that the Municipal Insurance Association, again, which was sort of.
Oh, Mr. DeVerti, something just happened again to your sound, unless I'm the only one that heard it. Everyone heard it? Okay. Yeah, you're gone, and it made a horrible sound before you left. So, okay. So let us go back to 6.5, the confirming of official street names. And is there any questions about that from council? I see none, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to the develop variance permit. Now I'm assuming, Mr. DeVerta, you might have to speak to this one.
I'll try.
Okay, we can hear you now.
All
So
right.
you're good right now. So development variance permit for College Street Modular Daycare. I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you. So at your, just trying to pull it back up. At your June 21st meeting, the matter was deferred until the next meeting to garner some further information. Hopefully that information that's attached in Mr. Murphy's report is sufficient. It gives you a bit of background on how many additional units are being provided. On the surface, there's not, or sort of long term, there's not a lot of additional spaces, but there is 8. And then in the short term, it seems like they'll be leaving the existing facility that's currently on Cairnsmore Street as currently continuing to operate if they can. And yeah, I think that's just it from that perspective. They have, because of the timelines, begun proceeding. But as Mr. Murphy recommends in his report, even though council may not wish to grant a variance per se to the total, it is likely beneficial for both the city and the applicant to relocate some of the default works and services. For example, the bylaw suggests that they should construct a sidewalk on their frontage, which is just right in front of their street or right in front of the development, but that doesn't go anywhere. So it would be likely more beneficial for the students and for the city and for the organization itself of the school district to instead construct a crosswalk and a shorter chunk of sidewalk to tie in with the new development across the street on Cairnsmore. So, or not Cairnsmore, but College. So we do recommend giving notice. You could vary that notice to be more specific, but from a simplistic point of view, it would be easier to give notice that there's some consideration of variances as listed in the June 21st report, and then council can determine whether specific ones, if any, should be granted at a later meeting.
I think you got it all out. That's great. I see a question from Councillor Duncan. Go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. DeVerta, for the information. I guess my main question is, you know, the district did request that we waive fees, and I want to confirm that we will not be waiving fees. That this motion only puts this out to public consideration. I don't want to commit us to waiving the fees. I believe the school district should pay their way, just like we, you know, ask developers to do. So.
Mr. DeVerta, is that correct?
Yeah, I understand that giving notice is simply in intent to consider it. And then, as I mentioned at the meeting, you can certainly, and we'll have some more details by that point if council's interested in considering what the actual cost of the alternate across the street would be, and instead shift the requirements.
Thank you. Any other questions from council right now? I see no other hands going up, so I'm going to read the motion that council directs staff to issue the public notice required for consideration of the 1040 College Street Modular Childcare Development, Cowichan Valley School District Development Variance Permit Application, as detailed in the June 21st, 2021 report of the Director of Public Works and Engineering and the Manager of Planning. Do I have a mover and a seconder for that motion? Any further discussion? Seeing no hands, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Excellent. New business, letter from North Cowichan, request to name North Cowichan in prior resolution, that council amend resolution R9221, that the City of Duncan approves the submission of a regional application by either the CVRD or a lead member municipality for the UBCM Strengthening Communities Fund 2021, and further that the City of Duncan approve the primary applicant to apply for, receive, and manage the grant funding on their behalf. by removing either the CVRD or lead member municipality and replacing it with North Cowichan. So the council resolution now reads that the City of Duncan approves the submission of a regional application by North Cowichan for the UBCM Strengthening Communities Fund 2021, and further that the City of Duncan approves the primary applicant to apply for, receive, and manage the grant funding on their behalf. Is there a mover and a seconder for this motion? And is there anything you want to say to this, Mr. DeVerti? I believe this is also just housekeeping because they ended up being the one who applied for it. Is that correct? Yes, okay. All right, all those in favor? Oh, sorry, no, hold it, one, back up. Sorry, Councillor Duncan has a question. Sorry, Tom, didn't see your hand.
Not a
up.
question, but just a comment that, you know, to see us working closely with North Cowichan, Peter, you have to be commended for the time and effort you put in for this. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I'll call the question now. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. And we'll move on to reports of mayor and council. Are there any council members who'd like to make a report tonight? Tell us what you've been up to now that the city's open up a little bit. Councillor Duncan?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to say. There's just so much vibrance in the downtown now. People are coming back. You know, there's going to be new opportunities, and I really hope to see that we get a good couple of months in summertime. And I'm not sure if we had that virtual parade on today. Is that today?
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I'm not around either, and I'm also haven't been on technology until tonight. So, did anyone get a chance to see that? No, we'll have to keep our eyes out for it. Thank you. Anyone else from council want to do a report tonight? I see no hands. I think, yeah, I came out of, the kids wanted to go see a movie, and so we went one night. It was one of the first nights the movie theater was open again. And when we came out, they were really excited. It was F9 or something. I don't know. It was like the Fast and Furious movies. There's actually 9 of them apparently. So it was fun to go to the movie. But when we came out, there was all this music, and we walked over to the stage, and the wine bar had all the seating outside, and the stage was full, and people were out, and it was just so nice to be back in that again. And people were just so happy. And again, I just want to really thank the 39 Days of July for all the amazing work that they do, and for everything that they bring. It's just brings, and the number, I was visiting more new businesses that are opening up, and again, just a lot of young people and different people moving in and opening up businesses in the valley. It was sad to see the Tulip Deli close after, I believe it was 40 years that they were in business in the city. And I actually ran into somebody, a young person who was about 25 years old, and she was crying because she didn't know they were closing. And she's like, I've been going there since I was a little kid with my grandparents. And I don't think we all realize, and probably certainly store owners don't realize, the impact that they have on community and the connection that people feel to the place. So I made it in there. They had just left for their very first lunch out in 40 years. So yeah, sad to see people go, and exciting to see the new people and businesses that are coming into town. I'd also just like to do a brief update, or not an update. I guess we haven't talked about it at a council meeting yet. But as you know, on July 1st, there was the night of July 1st, the totem was lit on fire on the Malahat. And we have sent some information out to council. It isn't a city pole, it's owned by the Ministry of Transport, but the city did do the restoration of the pole under the guidance of the Totem Committee in 2015. And so when this happened, I just happened to be coming home from Victoria, that when I heard about it, and stopped by the totem, and there was a number of people already there leaving memorials there. A lot of people really upset. As we know, it was and what was written on it, it was a retaliation for what had happened in Victoria. And you know, it's just really disheartening to see that happening in our communities. It's just not something that we experience here. And also too, to see something that is, you know, cultural, and with the knowing the history as well of how things were taken, cultural items were taken and they were burned in front of people in communities. And for that to happen just has such a different meaning, and grief and sadness and anger and all sorts of, you know, responses. And it was just really hard to, it was very sad to be there. And it was just, yeah, it was also just to see the amount of people stopping there already once that news had come out. And you don't again realize that and recognize, I think, the things that we see every day, that we don't think about how they impact and what they mean to people. And this is really taking us on a different journey, I think, as a community. So the city's involvement in this, we did go through all the protocol pieces around what happens to the pole next. And so because the city did restore it, or refurbish it, I guess, or restore it, Miss Boyd got the sign back up. The sign had been ripped off with the artist's name on it, and so that has been replaced. And we did meet with the family, and we followed all the protocols, working under the guidance of the elders that took care of the ceremony in 2015. And so there will be a private event being held that will address the cultural needs for that have been identified. We met with Cowichan Tribes as well, and they're part of working with that, and reached out to the Malahat Nation and neighboring nations. And so that work is underway, and once that is complete, the totem will be removed, and they will select a carver, and then there will be something to when it's ready to stand again. So I just wanted to let everyone know that that's where that is at, and that the city didn't take it down right away for a number of reasons. Then the main one being that we were directed that the proper cultural protocols had to be followed. So, and thank you, Ms. Boyd, for all of your work in that, and really stepping into this and helping up. Just, it's been much appreciated. And that just brings me to, I did receive a number of messages while I've been up here about the cross also being taken down on Mount Zuhalem. And again, it's connected to these other things. And I'm not gonna, it's, you know, when people start to do things, there's different ways that these things impact people. And what I would really love us see us do as communities is really work to identify those things that need to change and work together on changing them. Because what this is doing, unfortunately, is it's creating a lot of division. It's creating it's bringing up a lot of racism in our communities, and it's bringing up a lot of hurt for people in different ways. And so, well, I can, you know, understand to some degree the reasons, I guess, not the reasons, but for people to want to have things taken away or removed. I really believe that as the chiefs in the southern communities, you know, talked about in the letter that they wrote, that this isn't the way forward. The way forward is for us to work together to, you know, hear what those things need to be and what needs to be taken care of and changed, and then to support that, and not to do things that will cause further division, because that is not going to help us move forward. We need to move forward in a good way and respectful way together. And so on that note, I'm going to ask if there's any questions that have come in for question period tonight. No questions? Okay. So then we're going to move into a closed session, that the meeting be closed to the public under the following sections of the community charter to discuss matters related to employee relations, section 91C, labor relations or other employee relations, provision of a municipal service, section 91K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages, and that in the view of council would reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. Acquisition, disposition, expropriation of property, section 91E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements if the council considers that disclosure would be reasonably expected to harm the interests of the municipality. Others in attendance, section 92AI, if all or part of a meeting is closed to the public, the council may allow a person other than municipal officers and employees to attend. In the case of a meeting that must be closed under section 92, if the council considers this necessary and if the person already has knowledge of the confidential information. Do I have a motion, what, mover and a seconder for that very long? Okay, all those in favor? All right. So we are going to go into a closed meeting. So follow your links and we'll see you back in a couple of minutes.